Hi, you are listening to Organism, a flowcast where we question everything we think we know and don't know, like why do we do the things we do? How can we unlearn to relearn? It's about some personal stories, low moments, funny adventures, nutrition, mental and physical health. Anyways, big questions like how the hell do we do this thing called life? Stay tuned. Hi everyone. Hello. Hey, hello. Hey, hello. I hope everyone is doing amazing. Good morning if it's the morning, good day if it's the day, good evening or good night if it's in the evening or the end of the night. I don't know, end of an afternoon. But it is a beautiful sunny day here in Vancouver, and it feels amazing. I feel like it's a pretty decent month thus far, and happy to be here. And today it's going to be a short one because I just wanted to go over why is fasting popular. And also in the episode I just released, I talked about hypothyroidism, and I did not go over the herbs that I use for it. So I just figured I'll drop by here quickly, add another one in the same week, just so that can be out there at the same time, because I think it's important. And so I hope you're doing well, and whatever you're doing, good luck, enjoy, or hope you're feeling relaxed. But anyways, let's jump in. So what is a fast? And I feel like everyone knows it by now because it's become pretty popular, or at least people are talking about it a lot more. And I do happen to believe it is great. And not so long ago, I thought that I might not ever be able to do a fast, but lo and behold, when you really want to, it is crazy what you can do. And if you believe you can't, then you won't. And ever since I started this journey, I've definitely realized that a lot of the things that I said I don't know if I can do, I am doing. And it's actually not hard. And that's what's funny. So I feel like sometimes we put stops, our own stop signs into our head, thinking, oh, like, I won't be able to do this. But the truth is, you can. You just have to shift your perspective. And we are putting our stop signs, we are putting or setting our own limitations. And we really need to practice undoing that, or learning to de-learn that. Because if we do, then everything is just more amazing, And whether I mentioned it or not before, it's extremely empowering to feel like, oh, this is something I thought I couldn't do before, and here I am doing it now, and realizing that oftentimes it's actually way easier than we think. And our mind is extremely powerful, and if we allow ourselves to just try, then we would see that. And the more you do something like this, the more you realize it, and the more you realize it, the more you are willing to put yourself through different experiences that maybe you thought you were not gonna be able to do, or you were not gonna do before. And it is amazing. So a fast is essentially, the act of not eating, not eating for a certain amount of time, or like stop completely eating or partially. It really depends. I feel like nowadays is that thing where you kind of do, you do it your way, but essentially means whatever diet you're on an everyday basis, you kind of change it you reduce certain amount of things you're eating to for a certain amount of time to kind of maybe cleanse or do a detox or something like this. But technically, this would not be considered a fast. A true fast is essentially when you stop eating completely and you go to just drink water. A juice or juicing, I've been saying juice fast, right? And it is kind of a fast because you are drinking a juice, you're not eating, your stomach is not digesting as much. You are still digesting nutrients from the juice, but the thing is your digestive system is still somewhat at rest or doing less of a work because it doesn't have solids to digest. And so it is a fast, but at the same time you're still digesting food, whereas like a water fast is really just there's no food whatsoever in water, there's no nutrients whatsoever. Water really just cleanses you. I think I said it before. I really don't think it actually hydrates you. I think it's more cleansing. What hydrates you is electrolytes, and electrolytes are found in fruits and vegetables, even probably herbs, but mostly like fruits, vegetables, and things like coconut water. The water grows within the coconut, so it's completely protected, and it does have a lot of electrolytes, right? So that is actually hydrating. I don't think water is, and that's my personal opinion based on what I've experienced. Trying like water and like juicing, but so the whole point of fasting is essentially that you're giving your digestive system a rest, because it takes up to it takes about maybe 50%, who's to know the percentage, but essentially is whenever you're eating and then you're digesting food, essentially your stomach is working, right? So it's taking a certain amount of your energy levels to digest the food you just ate. And that's why sometimes, depending on the food you eat, you can have the itis and pass out if you eat too much. You know what I mean? It'll make you tired, exhausted. Because you ate not so great food, because essentially when you eat food, it should be giving you energy. You shouldn't feel like, oh, you've got the itis and you want to go to bed or you feel sleepy. That's when you know the food you just ate doesn't give you any energy at all, and it's probably not great food if that's the case. Hence why you'll notice the difference if you eat fruits or vegetables like a salad to a certain amount where you're not fully full, but you're like the Japanese, right? 80% full. You'll notice you won't get the hiatus or you won't feel sleepy, is because you're getting energy from that food. It's like live whole foods, right? Whereas if you're having like pasta, there's no nutrition in it, because the pasta that most people have are made off of white flour, and the flour has been processed, right? So processed that they have to re-add nutrients. But the thing is synthetic. It is synthetic, so it's considered dead food, right? And so that if you eat like a good bowl of pasta and then the next day you try to eat a salad, see how your energy level will vary after you eat. But yeah, so essentially, whenever you're eating food, your stomach has to digest it. Depending on what you're eating, it takes a certain amount of time. And then during that time, your body is using its energy to essentially make you digest. And so when you're digesting, energy goes there. And what happens when you are not digesting, or when digestion is done, is that all that energy that was put into digesting the food is now going into healing. So whenever your body is not digesting food, it is healing you. And that is why people fast, is because whenever you take a long amount of time without having food in your system, that whole time after it's done digesting, the body is just gonna spend time taking care of itself, and whatever needs to be cleaned, detox, removed, whatever is bad, it's gonna take care of it, right? So I've said it, the body is like a beautiful computer, or like a machine that we still don't really know how it works, right? There's no person who fully knows how the whole entirety of the body functions. And I think it would be be full of yourself to think that you, even as a professional, fully know the body. I don't think that's gonna be ever possible. It would be like saying that we know fully how the universe works, or the universes works, or how many planets there are out there, when in reality we actually probably know only 1% of it, or not even, you know. But just because it's that thing that's in front of us, we see it every day in other people, our bodies in the mirror, right? And it looks like it's not a big size, so it looks like we could potentially comprehend everything that's happening in the body. I don't think we do. So whatever, like the body, whenever you're not eating, it's just tending to you, and anything that's making it sick, anything that's making it uneasy, whatever, getting rid of dead cells, whatever, regenerating new ones, you know. So all that energy is spent doing that, and that's why it's extremely important to take a rest, you know, rest. Your body needs digestive rest in order to do that. And the thing is, whenever it does that, it's beneficial to you. When you're not eating, it's beneficial to you. It helps you. It's not harming you in any ways, actually. And you know, sometimes feeling hungry, or quote unquote hungry, is also good for you, you know. We're so used to having foods available all the times that sometimes you're eating, you know, without actually really being hungry. And what I've found that with this whole experience is usually that now I'm really thinking, okay, am I hungry right now, or is this thirst? So I'll drink water first and see how I feel after a couple of minutes, like a good amount of water. And if I actually feel hungry after, then I'll eat. If I don't feel that like in my stomach anymore, it means that it was just like thirst, because your body doesn't know how to make the difference between thirst and hunger. It's actually the same feeling, and I didn't know that before, and it makes sense. But yeah, so that's why it's always good when you feel hungry, you drink like a glass of water and see if within a couple of minutes you still feel hungry. Because if you do, then it means you're actually hungry and you should eat. If not, it means you were not hungry, you were actually thirsty. But yeah, so yeah, allowing the body to rest is extremely important for you again. And that's why people do intermittent fasting, right? So a lot of people will get into like a 12 to 18 hours fasting period or window, and then the rest you eat. Or a lot of people do what's popular. I do it. That's the one I'll do most often. But then sometimes I'll eat before, but often I'll do the 16-8, which is like 16 hours you're not eating and 8 hours you are eating. What happens during those times is that the body essentially starts using fat as its energy resource instead of like glucose. And so that is great for people who want to lose weight, because the excess fat you have is going going to get used to basically like maintain your energy. And so because of that, it's going to burn some fat, right? And after a certain amount of time, and I think it's between hours like 18 and more, maybe between 18 and 24, but then again, everyone is different, you know, so that might change. But what's really great is that at a certain amount of time, right, let's just say between 16 to 24 hours or 18 to 24 hours, your body enters ketosis. And you might have heard this name, like keto diet, right? So it's the same. Ketosis is basically when your liver, because you have not eaten anything in a while, right? Your, let's say, usually if you eat a fruit, you get your sugar from the fruit, and you need sugar because it's what your body actually uses to fuel itself. So that's what's giving you energy. And when I say sugar, I don't mean like the white sugar, because oftentimes what I hear is people say that, oh, you're eating too many fruits, it has a lot of sugar. And I think oftentimes people confuse or make the mistake of thinking that the sugar that's in the fruit is the same as white sugar. Meanwhile, these two things are very, very, very different. For the first thing is that white sugar is refined, and it's just straight up sugar. It has no fiber. It has no water content. It's just like a drug. Basically, it's like you're shooting yourself with like sugar. It's like a drug, and there's a reason why it's out there. You can find studies. You can find like it's the same effects as a drug, and we are experiencing detox symptoms whenever we cut out sugar in our diet. If you try to do 3 days or a week without sugar, you will probably feel like you're craving something sweet. You will experience detoxing like symptoms, and you will experience cravings, and usually that's how you know that you are in some ways addicted to sugar. Sugar is in everything. It will be in your pasta too. So sometimes I see in like, you know, comments on Instagram that, yeah, people, you're eating too much sugar, focus on eating more like things that are savory, you know. But even in savory things, people don't realize there's sugar, right? I think there was Subway breads. I think they had like a court, what is it, complaints, and they went to trial, etc., because they realized that there was a lot of sugar in their breads, right? And when you eat the bread at Subway, you don't taste sugar. But the thing is, it's so addictive that it's because of the sugar in there. So I think in at trial after that, they had to reduce the sugar to a certain amount of time because it was too much. Anyways, you can probably Google it. It's probably going to be there. I haven't read the full story, but I know this was a thing, and I had Subway maybe once or twice before. It's not my thing, but I had the bread, and you don't taste the sugar, but the truth is there is sugar in there. So just because it's savory doesn't mean there's no sugar. They put sugar in, you know, the savory, floury things you eat, you know, in breads and whatever. It's actually pretty popular. It's just that you don't taste it. And so yeah, if you really want to detox and stop the sugar and see if you are actually craving and detoxing from it, which would mean that you were addicted or you are addicted to sugar, you would need to stick to like a whole foods, like vegetables and fruits, for like 3 days or like a week, and see. Or actually, no, I would avoid even fruits. If you really want to know sugar at all and see if you're missing sugar and experiencing like detox symptoms, I would go even without the fruits. I would go with just leafy greens and see like how it feels for you, because most of the time, all of us, I'm pretty sure 95% of us will be experiencing some like symptoms and cravings because we miss the sugar, because it is in everything. But yeah, so what I was just saying essentially is that between a certain hours, right, window, your body starts producing ketones, and in the beginning, you're using sugar as like your energy fuel, but then the sugar runs out, and then your liver starts producing ketones in replacement of the sugar, basically, and what essentially it is doing, it's giving it acts like a sugar, but it's like a healthier version, and I can't really explain. It's like a fuel packet that your body is using as energy, as a replacement for the sugar. When you don't have enough sugar in your system, because you're fasting, your body basically uses them as like a backup plan for your to sustain your energy levels, right? And so it's produced in the liver, and then it goes into your bloodstreams to provide an energy to all your organs, including like the brain, the muscles, whatever. And a lot of people, after that, like within that time frame, right, 18 to 24 hours and more, they usually start seeing how their brain is thinking clearer. Like you think clearer, your thoughts are more organized, you don't have any brain fog. You also enter a state where you start noticing that you're no longer hungry if you were experiencing feelings of hunger before. So when I did like a 33 hours fast and it was just like water, what I noticed that, yeah, at a certain point during the day I was hungry, but you cut the hunger with like water, and that feeling of hunger kind of goes away. And I was really drinking. I was drinking to get rid of that feeling, because it's a little uncomfortable. And what I noticed after a certain time is actually that hunger left, and I was no longer feeling hungry. I was actually pretty fine and functioning very well, and I had energy, right? And I reckon at that point it was probably like a ketosis moment, or I entered like the ketosis phase of whatever like that fast I was doing at the time. But yeah, so you will experience more cognitive function, you'll be clearer, and then at that same time you'll have like a decrease in like hunger. And that's why after a certain amount of time, like people are able to last in a water fast for 17 days, like 21 days, etc. Is because at some point you actually start realizing you don't feel hungry, right? Your stomach is not craving food, it's just healing itself, especially when you enter autophagy, which is after like 24 hours, or some people, it varies again, some people say 24 hours, some people say after 48 hours. I can't tell you there's like a specific amount of like a specific time window. I think it varies for different people's, right, different bodies. But usually after 24 hours, like if you pass the 30-hour threshold, usually you'll enter that phase called autophagy, and it's basically like a cellular repair where the body kind of removes any damaged cells and proteins. And that in itself helps to reduce the risk of several diseases, right? So you will have symptoms of detoxification, like headaches. Maybe you'll feel fatigued because you're not getting any energy from the water, right? If it's a water fast. So you're not getting any energy, and so you'll feel very fatigued. You'll have maybe like a headache. At that time, your body will start reducing inflammation. So if you have inflammation, it's really good to enter autophagy. But really, it is really good to enter autophagy for anyone, because at that moment it's really essentially, it's like old cells that are damaged kind of get removed or die, or I don't know exactly how it's working in there, but they get replaced with new born kind of like cells. And to me it seems crazy, because if you're constantly putting yourself in a state of autophagy or even a state of ketosis, right? So if you're fasting every day for 16 hours, or if you're just going every day eating 1 meal a day, and a lot of people I actually follow that, you know, they have businesses, or they're like very they're very they're like driven and creative, and a lot of time I realize these people often say, I eat 1 meal a day, you know. Oftentimes it's not in the morning, it's like it's gonna be midday or towards the end of the day, and that's the only meal I eat. And before that, I drink a lot of water. Maybe I have my like teas or whatever. Some people will have coffee, you know. But if you're having coffee with milk, your body has to dark coffee is not cutting your fast, but anything with dairy, or if you add dairy or sugar, you're essentially breaking the fast, because your body will process the dairy and the sugar. So it's recommended, just to, if you want to have coffee, to have dark coffee, right? To not stop the process of the fast. But yeah, so a lot of these people I follow actually do eat 1 meal a day. And what I started noticing is that the less you eat, the less you want to eat, the less hungry you feel. And the more you eat, the more you want to eat, and the more hungry you feel. And if you let yourself go there, it's very easy to overeat and continue to want to eat more and feel hunger more. And at that point, you have to stop yourself and make yourself kind of reduce that willingly, or stop yourself from overeating or eating too much, so that you can go back to feeling less hungry. And I've definitely noticed that even as we are currently doing a cleanse, right? And in the beginning, because it was December, I was eating like a lot more, and so I felt hungrier. I had more cravings, and so during the first few days of the fast, like I was wanting more food, so I was eating a lot more fruits, you know, and having bigger portions of like the smoothie bowl. And then slowly, and it's only been 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks now, because I'm going to publish that episode right after I'm done it, because it comes after the second one that got published, because I'm gonna talk about herbs that I use for hypothyroidism just after all of this, and it goes with that episode. So I just wanted to come in quickly just to add that and make sure it's out there. But yeah, so ever since we've started it, I've noticed my hunger keeps decreasing, actually, to a point. There was one day where I just ate a couple of dates and had a couple of dates. I didn't even have a smoothie bowl. What else did I have? Maybe coconut meat, and that was it. Like, I didn't want to eat anything. I had a fruit, and that was it. Like, the whole day I was actually not hungry. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, eat something, but then I ask myself, am I really hungry? And I'm like, no, I'm actually not hungry. Okay, then I don't need to eat, because if your body is telling you, hey, I'm not hungry, do not eat. Like, we make the mistakes of like, oh, it's lunch, let's eat. But if you really sit yourself down and ask at that moment, am I hungry? You'll see if you are hungry or if you're not hungry. And if you're not hungry, you should not eat, because your body is telling you, I don't need it right now. You know what I mean? I don't need it right now. Don't feed me. You don't need it. I'm fine. I'm good. But because we operate, or they've made us feel like you need it all the time, then you're kind of believing that if you don't eat, it's a bad thing, right? Like, even sometimes Ash will tell me, oh, just make sure you eat, okay? And I have to tell her, yeah, but I'm not hungry. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's true. Like, if you're not hungry, you know, so it's still, we're also still thinking like this, because we've been educated in this way, like, oh, it's lunch, it's morning, it's dinner, whatever, eat because you need the food, because we think that if we don't eat the food, we'll be malnourished, or will not have enough nutrients or enough energy. Meanwhile, if you eat the good foods when you're hungry, like good whole foods, very quickly you will become less and less hungry, and your body will actually be fine and functioning well and have more energy, and you will not lack anything because you're eating less, you're giving more rest, and you're eating better foods. And when you think about people who are actually very overweight, not to say obese, but obese, oftentimes we might think in our heads like, oh, like you kind of feel like they're well nourished, but it's not true. They're actually malnourished, but they are obese or overweight, and it's because they're not eating food that is feeding their body, right? You can eat a lot of like the carbs, the processed food, and those foods have no nutrients whatsoever, nothing that's good for you, right? It'll just accumulate and build the fat, and you look like you're eating a lot, and you are eating a lot, but the truth of the matter is you're actually malnourished, because those are just empty foods, dead foods. There's nothing nourishing about it, but it's gonna come into your body, it's gonna sit there, and we see that, right? So actually people who are overweight or obese or malnourished, they're not fed properly, they're not feeding their body with good foods, right? So essentially fasting is what it is. And there's like the water fast, I've been talking about it, and this one is like the hardest, right? You can survive with water anywhere along like two months, just water. After that you die, and that's where I believe that water is not hydrating. It's like it cleanses you. It's just empty, right? I might have said this before. If I didn't, there are a lot of people who don't drink regular water. They drink coconut water, they eat fruits, they eat vegetables, and they're fine, and they're actually probably more hydrated than both you and me included, because they're getting their water from the fruits, from the vegetables, from from nature, that actually that food has electrolytes and has nutrients. So it's actually nutritious and giving them the structured water we actually all need, and that's what's feeding your body, and that's what's keeping your body hydrated. But when you think about water, for me it's really just it's emptiness, right? You'll drink it, it's very good at cleansing the body though. So I'm not saying that, oh, we shouldn't drink water. What I'm saying is when you're detoxing and cleansing, water is your best friend, because it'll it'll just clean and clean. It's gonna pass and sweep. It's like a sweep. It's gonna sweep everything, right? Especially if you're not eating, it's gonna do that work where it's gonna cleanse, because you're not giving anything, you're just washing it. It's like you're doing a deep wash within your body, right? But if you want to be hydrated, you need electrolytes in there, and it's going to be in your food, like fruits, vegetables, stuff like this, right? So there are people who live without drinking just plain water, and they are doing very well. Their skin is probably looking better than ours, so that exists out there. So there's the water fast. Then there's mono fasting, is basically you're eating one fruit or vegetables, or you're eating one thing, like grapefruit or pomegranate for 3 days, or longer, or a month, whatever. Then there's the juice feasting. I think it's a more appropriate term, where you're feasting on juices because they have the nutrients in there. You're still digesting, because in the juices, depending on where you get it, if you make it at home, you most likely will still have some pulp in there, so you'll still have some fiber. and you'll still be digesting something. And even if it's just the juice itself that you buy in store and there's no pulp, you're still digesting the nutrients that are in the juice. So it is easier on your digestion, but you still have to digest it a little bit, right? And then there's like obviously the intermittent fasting. You eat within a certain window, like I said before, and there's probably more out there, right? So right now, I wouldn't say that we're fasting because we are eating, but we are detoxing in the sense that we are sticking to raw foods. And the only reason why I am not making like more complicated raw foods right now is just because I want to take that time to not spend time in the kitchen. I want to eat very simple food. So we're staying in like a very like little amounts of food, like not a lot of mixing a bunch of things together, very simple foods, like a salad with maybe 3 ingredients or 5 ingredients, and we're not having any oils whatsoever, right? Anything like that. So we could say that we are on a strictly raw fast or raw detox diet right now. Yeah, like, but at its simplest form, not trying to make like raw pasta kind of stuff. No, if I want the fruit, I'm eating the fruit. If I want the lettuce, I'm gonna have it as is. I don't need to make a wrap out of the lettuce, or I don't need to like mix a bunch of like, you know, other stuff with it, if that makes sense. But yeah, so so like I said before, I wanted to talk about the herbs quickly because it's extremely important. I think people forget that herbs are also nutritious. It's food, and that we're not taught, that I didn't necessarily know. We don't really see herbs as like we see herbs as like, oh, they're gonna give flavors to our foods, right? And in a way, we know they're nutritious, but a lot of people don't actually drink herbal teas because I think in some ways we have that disconnect where we think that it's not really doing anything. Otherwise, I feel like we would do it more. I don't know how to really say it properly, but yeah. So you have like fruits are the ones that are going to give you energy, and then you have vegetables that are going to make you build and repair you and muscles and all that, right? And then you have herbs that are actually healing. Herbs are for healing you, and it's in that sense that you should be using them, right? And before, that is what people were using. I think people used to use herbs as before they were using the peel for women, you know. So before the peel was became popular, a herb was given to a woman, and that herb was called purple yam. I think that's what it is, to act essentially like the peel, right? Because it's very good for the reproductive system. It'll heal fibrosis and fibroids, and stuff like this, actually. And it's not synthetic, so it won't, like, your body will recognize it. It won't create any damage, whereas the peel in itself will create damage. Actually, the peel, they know that the peel is known to, promote the growth of tumors, whether they are cancerous or not, right? So a lot of women will develop fibroids because of the peel, and a lot of women will develop cervix cancer because of the peels. And that's why, or because of the peel, and that's why whenever you have like a cervix cancer or something along that sort that has to do with the womb, oftentimes or all the time, they'll actually get you to stop the peel, is because they know it creates it can create the cancer, it can create the fibroids, right? So they'll tell you to stop the peel, and it's very scary when you consider the fact that, you know, a lot of women are actually getting on the peel very early on, and unfortunately, it's known to create the fibroids and the cancer, and it can also lead to like a breast cancer, right? So being on the pill is not that great. It's synthetic, and I myself do believe I had or am removing or dealing with fibroids because I had heavy periods. I had a lot of blood clotting, and honestly, when you have blood clots, it should tell you that something is not normal. I had gone to the gynecologist. She was like, "Oh, has it always been like this?" I was like, "Yeah, I can't really remember when it started, but it's been like this for a while." And she was like, "Oh, it's been like, if it's been like this, it's probably normal." And they analyzed, "Yeah, no, everything looks fine, whatever, whatever." They did not try to test me to see if I had fibroids whatsoever, right? So I myself, because of all this research, I'm like, yeah, I definitely have it, because I don't believe it's normal to have painful periods. I don't believe it's normal to have a heavy bleeding. I don't believe it's normal to have blood clots. Absolutely not, especially if it's several times a day, right? And your periods last like 7 days or so, which mine sometimes like 6. Even that is actually long. And when you consider the fact that we now have our periods earlier on, some women have their periods around like the age of like 8 or 9 or even earlier, which is very scary, because 100 years ago it was probably at like the age of 15. So yeah, so if you're 9 or 10, imagine you're developing yourself and then you get on the pill, and it's known to create non-cancerous tumors like fibroids, and then it can lead to cancer of the cervix, cancer of the breast, etc. So it's something we definitely need to pay attention to. Yeah, it's not normal to have painful periods. It's not normal to have blood clots, right? And what I can tell you for sure is that ever since I started doing this, like especially within the just first few days of my cleanse, I've just finished my periods, and I can honestly say that it's the first time I've seen very minimal blood clots in a while. Like I still experience them with like the 2 cleanses, like the 2 juice fast, but my periods since I started all of this journey, they have been constantly better and better, and I am amazed, because I feel like it's the first time I feel relieved, and I'm not even using any pills whatsoever to deal with the pain. The pain has become manageable to sometimes being like barely there. If it's there, it's like very fast and quick, and usually I know it's due to a blood clot. Yeah, so it's still about the same length of time, but I've noticed my blood is clearer, and there's definitely less clotting, which is amazing. So for me, it is a sign that this is actually working. The diet and also using herbs to help manage estrogen in the body and deal with like the womb, right? So when it comes to the herbs I've been using for hypothyroidism, because at the end of the day, that's why I'm here for. That's what's important to me right now after that episode I just published, right? To tell you what herbs I am using. And since dealing with the thyroid, I mentioned previously that iodine deficiency is actually probably one of the main causes of dealing with hypothyroidism, right? And as I was doing research to what are herbs that were used before to treat hypothyroidism, it was actually bladderwrack and bladderwrack and even sea moss, but both of these grow in the sea, right? And iodine comes from either seafood, like I mentioned before in the episode, or algae or like water plants. But I would say you will get more out of the water plants, the water herbs, than the seafood. So this is why bladderwrack has been very important, because it is a sea plant, so it's very rich in iodine, And sea moss combined, the both of them work very well together because sea moss is, you might have heard about it a lot. Like it's been used for healing for a long periods of time. It's a sea plant you can use every day just because it's very, very high in all the vitamins, especially vitamin C. And people with hypothyroidism actually tend to lack vitamin C, and it's because we have digestive absorption issues. Like we have a very slow metabolism, right? So that means essentially that you have a slow digestion, and that essentially reduces the absorption of nutrients, including vitamin C. And so it makes for a slow digestion, and it means also that you're gonna have a low stomach acids, and the low stomach acids is not good because your stomach needs a certain amount of acidity to digest food properly, right? And because of the hypothyroidism, we also have like an increased oxidative stress in the body. So it means that the cells are under more pressure from damaging like molecules that you might know as like free radicals. And so vitamin C is an antioxidant, and vitamin C is the one or amongst the vitamin that helps to fight free radicals, right? So essentially, you're already in a state where your body is in a certain amount of stress, and so it's gonna put a lot of efforts in fighting those free radicals, right? And so you will continuously, it's like you're continuously gonna use the vitamin C to a higher rate than someone else. And so it's like you create within yourself a constant lack of that vitamin. Like you would need to eat more of things that have vitamin C to quickly replenish so that you can continue to fight, right? But oftentimes because of our diet, it's like your body's gonna do the work for you. It's gonna use more until it gets tired because you're not giving it what it needs to continue to fight. And so at that moment, that's when you'll start seeing that you start feeling more of the symptoms, because over years your body was trying to manage with everything it could that deficiency, but you were not feeding it properly to continue to fight, and so it's used up all of that vitamin C, for instance. And then now, unfortunately, it can no longer do that because it's continuously lacking the vitamin C, especially if you're not eating a lot of it. And so now you start feeling slower, you start feeling more of the symptoms of the sickness or the inflammation or whatever you're dealing with. And for us in this instance, it's hypothyroidism. Now you're going to feel more of the symptoms, right? So because we also have a poor blood circulation, that in itself, it slows down our heart rate, and that means that our blood flow in the body will be reduced, and that means it reduces how effectively nutrients, right, including the vitamin C, is delivered to our cells and our tissues. So sea moss is high in vitamin C, and that's why it's very important for someone who has hypothyroidism to use it, because it's going to replenish that deficiency essentially. And when it comes to bladderwrack, it's a higher source of iodine than sea moss, even though sea moss still has iodine because it's a sea plant, but bladderwrack tends to have more of the iodine, right? And it's very strong in its mineral density. So in addition to iodine, it's rich in minerals like calcium, magnesium, potassium, iron, especially for people who are anemic, which we can also be, right? And iron is very important because it's vital for your energy, your immune support, and your blood circulation, actually, which proper blood circulation will distribute also proper oxygen to your cell, and you need oxygen for the body. Is very important, right? So it's very good in the mineral sorry densities. It's very good for anti-inflammatory issues. Oh, sorry. And I think they called it I don't know how to pronounce this word. Fucoidians. Those are the elements that are very high, like anti-inflammatories. They are anti-inflammatory, and they have inflammatory effects on the body, so it'll reduce inflammation wherever you have like inflammation in the body, on your organs, whatever. It's very high in antioxidants, right? So that is good because, like I mentioned before, we are constantly in a state of stress and we are constantly trying to fight free radicals. And because antioxidants are the ones to fight essentially all those free radicals that are coming from outside, right? Then you need a lot of antioxidants, and Bladderwrack will have a lot of it. But also anything that's like berries are high in antioxidants, and that's why if you eat a lot of berries, is first of all, it's very good for your brain, but second of all, it's going to be very good to reduce inflammation. And that's why I personally think you should have berries every day. Now I know it's hard because berries are actually freaking expensive, especially organic, and berries, you need to get them organic because they are amongst the most sprayed with pesticides. Animals probably love them a lot because they're sweet. They're good. The sweeter the berry, the redder the berry, the sweeter the juice, or the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Yes, that's what it is. And so it probably attracts a lot of insects, and they are spraying the hell out of the berries. And so that's why you should have berries. And the way I find it best to eat them is in a smoothie or a smoothie bowl, because you buy them frozen, organic, and it's actually cheaper than buying like a little pack for like $7, and there's a couple of blueberries. Imagine $7 a day, right? Who can afford it? Even if you have money, to be honest, like, is it worth it? Nah. And what's good, actually, oftentimes we tend to see frozen foods as like bad foods, but actually frozen foods is very good for you, because think about it, whenever they take it, harvest it, they have to freeze it right away, and so it keeps all the nutrient in the food intact most of the time, right? It's different if they start to they let it sit for a while, for a week, and then they freeze it. It's not gonna be the same, but you have to freeze it right away to avoid it getting bad, right? And so oftentimes that's why there are some nutritionists or food people out there who are saying, yeah, if I have like a person who's coming to me and they say they can't afford it, I will tell them to use, instead of buying like the vegetables in the store because maybe it's too expensive for them and they have like a whole family to feed, right? Then I'll tell them to buy frozen fruits and vegetables, because it actually is very nutritious. So that's why I'm trying to have every time I have a smoothie bowl at home, it includes berries in there, and that's gonna be my daily berry intake, just because I know it's very, like, anything that's red in color is very good for you, and I think it's something we should have every day, definitely. But yeah, these are basically the two herbs that I use to manage the hypothyroidism, and I would recommend, and especially Bladderwrack, because it has been used for years, and that's what they used to use before to treat hypothyroidism, again because it is high in iodine, and a lot of the time people who have hypothyroidism are lacking iodine, and you need iodine to make it work well. And like mentioned in the episode that I just posted out, the thyroid gland is very, very important for your metabolism, the way you process your food, your energy levels, your temperature, your hair, your body. It's absolutely important. And I did mention it before that I think 1 of 10% in North America has it, has hypothyroidism without knowing it necessarily. And all you have to do is take a look at your diet and Google maybe the symptoms of hypothyroidism, right? And see if you're feeling any of the symptoms, and see if you're eating a lot of sea plants. Like, are you eating a lot of seaweeds, right? Because seaweed, like nourishes, etc., that can be good. That actually has iodine, but you would need to eat a lot of it, but it has iodine in it, right? So if you're eating a lot of seafood, you know, and you don't have a lot of these symptoms, it's fine. But if you don't eat seafoods, you don't eat sea plants, and you have some of the symptoms of hypothyroidism that you can see online, then maybe it's a quick fix. You just do a treatment of like Bladderwrack and sea moss, or just Bladderwrack itself, and for maybe like 2-3 months, and then you see after that how you're feeling, right? And see if it benefits you, if it changes. If it doesn't change anything, maybe you didn't have it. But still, the fact of the matter is, even if you don't have it, taking the herb is not going to hurt you, right? If you take if you stay within a dose that, and that's the thing with plants, there's not like a high dose that is going to kill you. That's what's great about plants. It's different when it comes in the synthetic version, because you don't know how much, even though they say there's this percentage, right? You don't know what else is put in there. To be honest, I wouldn't trust it. So I would stick to a certain amount. But when it comes to plant, like, it's hard for you to overdose on a plant. But again, it depends on the plant, because I know there are some plants out there that you do need to be careful how you take it, how much of it you take. But for a lot of them, all it can do is actually benefit you, because again, herbs are meant for healing, and they should be seen as very nutritious and something that if you drink as a tea, or if you put them in your food, right, like oregano leaves, it's actually very, very good for you and healthy, and will keep you doing well. Now, if you're trying to, let's say, do like what else? I mean, I could talk about like a parasite cleanse and herbs after, but I can just quickly give you some names now, because this is what we are using for our detox. So we're doing currently like a 6 weeks, 3-month cleanse, right? But for 6 weeks, we're doing parasite detox and a colon cleanse. And so for parasites, I blend herbs that are wormwood, black walnut, cloves, full cloves, Pt.2, and oregano. All together, I mixed all the herbs together to a same amount of percentage, a balance between them. And then I take about like 2 teaspoons, or I feel like a tea ball of the herb, and I put it in like 1 liter of water. And that's what we drink. It's very bitter. Doing like a parasite and colon cleanse, those herbs are very, very bitter. So if your taste buds are not used to the bitterness, because you barely eat anything bitter, it's gonna taste very disgusting. But then again, that's what's good for you. It'll kill the parasites. Now, the thing with parasites is that they latch on to your intestinal tracts, you know, on the walls, and they also lay eggs, right? And we need to remember that animals get dewormed, and for us, it should be actually the same thing. We should get dewormed, because for as long as we're human beings and living creatures, we are always gonna get parasites. That just comes with being alive. Animals get it, we get it. But the difference between the domestic animals, for example, is that they get dewormed. It's like a thing you should do, actually, and for us it doesn't seem to be something that is out there. I can't remember ever going to the doctor, and the doctor like, oh, how long since the last time you dewormed yourself, right? Because it's actually important, because they live in your they live in you, they are alive in you, they lay eggs in you, because this is the If you thought you were not like a living organism and nothing could be in you and that your body inside is like not alive, your body is alive. Your body is an organism, and in that organism live or other organism, including worms, and they eat your food, they eat the nutrients, and if you have deficiencies, sometimes actually it can come from having parasites that eat the foods you're eating. If you have cravings too, they love sugar, so maybe your cravings might come from that too. So you might want to check when's the last time you got dewormed. Have you ever dewormed yourself before? If not, it's definitely something you should do and check out. And one book that I need to read, but I read her books, I might have mentioned it before or in a previous another episode later, that's gonna come later, but if you want to check out a book, it's called Your Brain on Parasites, and it is proven that your parasites actually affect your behaviors, they affect your moods, and so things like depression, right, along with your lacking vitamin B12 and D, etc., that can cause depression, right? But it can also come from the fact that you have worms. Those worms are also eating your food, and so you get more deficiencies, including the B deficiencies and other deficiencies like iron too, like a lot of anemia. If you have like severe anemia, it can come from worms. So I highly encourage you to, if you've never done like dewormed yourself, to do a cleanse. And I would say that a week is not enough, you know, especially if you've never done it. If you haven't done it in a while, you have to keep in mind that you have to kill them, and on top of that you have to have a good bowel movement, several bowel movements a day, to make sure they're actually coming out. Because it's one thing to kill them, it's not good if you kill them and they stay in your stomach or they stay in your intestines or your body or your eyes, because lo and behold, they can actually be in your brain, in your behind your eyes, etc. So when you do like a parasite cleanse, it is oftentimes associated with a colon cleanse, because you have to kill them and you have to make sure they come out. And usually when you kill them, that's when you can experience detoxing symptoms as well, because they release toxins, right? And so you might have the headaches, you might have the diarrhea, you might have the vomit, you might have like a fatigue, you know, because you're killing them, they're releasing toxins, and you have to make sure because of that that they come out. And because they also lay eggs, you have to make sure you kill the ones that are alive, you have to make sure you kill the larva or the egg, and you have to do it for a long amount of time, or a sufficient amount of time, to make sure that you get rid of the ones that were alive and that died. And you want to do it long enough that also the babies, the eggs, get killed and come out of you. And oftentimes people will recommend doing 6 weeks, up to 8 weeks. I think 8 weeks might be a lot, but I am doing it until the point where I no longer see like I will no longer see them in my stool, because I do see white things. Thankfully it's not big. So far it's not done, so we'll see. But you do see them in your stools. That's when you want to look at your stools and to make sure that you see that things are actually coming out of you, and just to keep track of that. But yeah, so it's extremely important. 1 week will not be enough. You still have the eggs, and the eggs also need to come out if you fully want to remove them, right? So it also would be better to pair it with a good diet, so avoid things that can actually give you parasites like meat. So if you want to avoid meat, dairy, I like the cheese, you know what I mean, meat, dairy, and if you increase at least your amount of fruits and vegetables to help keep your colon clean and to have good gut bacteria as well, that will be helpful. So yeah, so that was it for today, guys. It was supposed to be a little quick, went over slightly over an hour, but I just wanted to make sure I released this week just after the episode that just came out on the 15th, because it was important for me to do so. I did not mention the herbs I was using for hypothyroidism, I think, on that one that just came out this week. And I just wanted to make sure I mentioned them here for you. Yeah, again, when you take those herbs, it is always better to do it with like a clean diet, because if you continue to have like a high inflammatory diet while taking those herbs, you're actually lowering the effects of those herbs, and the whole point is to make sure that you get the full effects out of it, right? So if you're doing like a parasite detox, you want to make sure you're limiting your intake of sugar, because, well, the worms love sugar and you're trying to kill them, you know what I mean? It just doesn't work or pair well together. So just be thinking of that. And yeah, that's it. I wish you guys like a great day. I'm happy to be here again, and this is a long journey. You know, I'm hoping that in some ways it'll help some of you. You know, I'm also currently monitoring my acne, because I've been experiencing some acne, which is absolutely normal when you transition to a mostly raw diet, and especially when you stop using products whatsoever. I feel like it's only when you stop using products, because people are out there, I'm not gonna lie, they have beautiful skins, right? But they also use a lot of cosmetics, right? So when you stop the cosmetics, it's then that you get to see your true face, and you let your skin react, and from that, now you see what you need to work on. Because what I definitely realize is that it doesn't matter what you put on your face, you're just covering things up, right? And when you remove that cover, you let it out there, you observe it, and now you're like, okay, let me see if without nothing I can deal with it. And I can already tell you that after already 2 weeks, it's going down. Like every day I see improvements. The hardest is going to be the scars, because most of it is actually just brown spots and scars, and those will take longer. But with just the diet, I see a big change, and it's actually going away alone. I am using something to clean my face, and I've shared it on my Instagram, and it's I believe it's called Uncle Tommy. It's like a completely natural product with like a purified water, bentonite clay, eucalyptus oil. Like it's completely clean. I think there's there's apple cider vinegar, but I think there's a little bit of what's it called? Is it citric acid or something like this, but very little, and I think it says organic, but that's it. The rest of it, all the ingredients behind, I can read and I know exactly what they are, and I just use it to just clean my face after a long day, even though technically I can still use only water, but still I prefer to, because I go to the gym and I sweat, I prefer to use it, because the bentonite clay, I know the bentonite clay has like a pull out toxins off of the skin, and apple cider vinegar is very, very also good at cleansing the skin. So I know that it's not something that's harsh, and I know that everything is natural. I use very little of it, and so essentially, yeah, the only thing I'm using is completely natural, and I see improvements. And I'm pretty sure that if I was not using it, still just using maybe like a hot water, right, just to steam my face, and maybe just putting bentonite clay every day, let's say on my face, or every other day, I would still achieve the same results, is because whatever is going on inside me, like I'm cleansing my body, and I see it reflecting on the outside, and I think we forget that. So yeah, this is something I'll be sharing. I'm taking photos, maybe not every day, but I'm definitely monitoring it, and I'm curious to see how it will be at the end of the 3 month. But yeah, I'm gonna go now. Thank you for listening, guys. If I was alone, that was great. And I know my mom listens, so I love you, Mom, and thank you for the support. And yeah, if it was just me and her, then amazing. And if it's someone out there just listening, you know, for the heck of it, if it's helping you in any ways, I'm happy. I'm not a doctor. I'm just going through an experience and I'm just sharing what I read, right? So hopefully that can be of a help for you. Hopefully that can jumpstart something in you, inspire you, whatever, to try your own things. Yeah, that would be great. But in the meantime, yeah, see you next week on, you know what, let me check the date for next week, when the next episode is gonna come out on the 22nd. Bye.
Good morning, good day,